Hello and welcome. If you're planning a future in Canada, you'll want to listen up because Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, that's IRCC for short, has just rolled out some really significant changes. In this explainer from Corus Immigration, we're going to break down exactly what's new and what it means for your journey. So let's get right into it.
So here are the two big headlines. Two of Canada's key immigration pathways have been hit with some major updates. First, the home childcare provider and home support worker pilots, they're now paused for any new applications. And second, the popular startup visa program, suspended. These are pretty big developments, so let's unpack exactly what's going on.
You know, hearing news like this can be really unsettling, especially if these programs were part of your plan. You're probably asking, okay, what does this mean for me? And that's exactly why we're here, to bring some clarity. We're going to walk through each of these changes, step by step, so you have the solid information you need to move forward. All right, first up, let's tackle the changes to the caregiver programs. We're talking specifically about the home child care provider and the home support worker pilots. For a lot of essential workers, these have been a really popular and direct route to getting permanent residency here in Canada.
This infographic here does a fantastic job of telling the whole story of these pilots, right from when they launched to this very sudden freeze. We're going to use this as our guide to really understand not just what happened, but more importantly, why it happened.
Let's walk through this timeline together. So the pilots kicked off on March 31st, 2025, and the response was just incredible, overwhelming. Then, fast forward to December 19th, and bam, a surprise announcement pretty much changed the game. That led to a full-on freeze on new applications starting March 31st, 2026. And this isn't a short pause. It's set to last for 4 years, all the way until March 30th, 2030. See, these pilots were run on a first-come, first-served basis. And you can just imagine the chaos that created, right? It was a mad rush. The annual application caps were completely filled up within just a few hours of the program opening. That just goes to show you how massive the demand was, and it was a huge signal to the government that the system was under some serious pressure. And that incredible demand is exactly what made the December 19th announcement such a shocker. I mean, everybody was expecting the program to just reopen like normal in the spring of 2026. But nope. Instead, IRCC dropped these new instructions that brought the intake of new applications to a screeching halt. Let's just let that number sink in. 4 years. That is a long time. It means that until 2030, no new applications are going to be accepted under these specific home care pilots. This is a major policy shift, and it's going to affect thousands of potential applicants. It really suggests the government is hitting the pause button to reassess and maybe even redesign the whole program to handle these huge volumes better in the future.
And it's not just caregivers who are feeling the impact here. Okay, now let's shift gears and turn our attention to the second major update, which is all about entrepreneurs. The Startup Visa Program, or SUV program, was designed to bring innovative business minds to Canada, but frankly, it's been buckling under the weight of a massive backlog.
This slide does a really great job of laying it all out. You've got the problem on one side and the proposed solution on the other. You can see a system just totally overwhelmed with applications and long delays. And the fix? A new, much more targeted approach. This is a theme we're seeing. When the system gets overwhelmed, the government steps in to manage the flow.
And this really gets to the heart of it. The problem was a gigantic backlog of applications that stretched processing times into years, sometimes even a decade. So the government solution is basically to hit the reset button. They're closing the current program to clear out that backlog and then launch a brand new, more efficient pilot. It's a bold move for sure, but it's all aimed at making the system actually work in the long run.
The scale of this problem is just staggering. Can you imagine being an entrepreneur with a fantastic, job-creating idea for Canada, but you're told you might have to wait 10 years for permanent residency? That's a huge barrier for top talent, and IRCC knew something had to give. A system that's slow isn't just inefficient, it's actively holding back economic growth.
So the immediate result of all of this is clear. The Startup Visa program is now suspended. The government is officially hitting pause. The goal is to clear that backlog and build a better, more responsive system for the future. Of course, this raises a huge question, right? Is Canada basically shutting the door on immigrant entrepreneurs? Well, according to IRCC, the answer is a firm no. This isn't meant to be the end of the road, but more of a transition, a bridge to something new.
So what's the game plan? Well, first, intake is suspended to clear that backlog. But there is a small window, a grace period, until June 2026 for certain applicants. The really big news, though, is that a totally new, targeted pilot program for entrepreneurs is set to launch in 2026. We should get all the details on that sometime next year. The strategy is pretty clear: out with the old and in with the new.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. So after all that, what does this actually mean for you? Let's boil it all down to the key takeaways that will help you figure out your next steps.
So here's the bottom line. If you're a home care applicant, the program you were probably counting on is on pause for new applications for the next 4 years. If you're an entrepreneur, the current program is closed, but a new one is on its way. And really, for everyone, the biggest takeaway is that Canadian immigration is constantly evolving. This all points to a more managed, more controlled system, which means staying informed is more important than ever.
Look, these are massive changes, and it is completely normal to feel a bit lost or uncertain right now. Trying to navigate this new landscape is going to take some careful planning and, most importantly, the right information.
If you need help figuring out how these changes affect you personally and what your best next steps might be, that's what we're here for. You can always reach out to us at corusimmigration@gmail.com or check out our website. Thanks so much for watching, and we wish you the very best on your immigration journey.